dumped on a doorstep, sold to a religious leader for SX, the child who survived the unthinkable.
International Women's Month, I wanted to bring forward stories of survivors who have gone through the unimaginable, things that you and I probably can't even fathom. And I spoke to this young lady a little while ago, and she became one of my favourite people just because of her sheer, genuine, loving heart. Um, she has chosen to keep her identity, private, and we have to respect that. But she's going to share her story with me. And I just want to start by asking you why you want to share your story.
I would like other people to be aware that this kind of things that have happened to me do happen, and it's not just a taboo, and it's not. I don't want to be silenced anymore, and obviously for a long time I was. So I would like other people to be aware that this kind of stuff does happen in our community.
When you say our community, could you just tell the people watching where you were born, what kind of family you were born into, the ethnicity of the family?
Yeah, so I was born into a Sikh family. I'm from a South Asian Indian community, and like obviously as the story goes on, I will explain. I've never met my father in how many years of me being alive on this earth, so I don't even know that side of my family. But I do know my mother's side, and that is Indian, Sikh, and by the means I mean Sikh, so baptized Sikhs as well.
Oh, right, okay, so they were quite religious in that sense.
Yeah,
Okay, and they're Punjabi. For
yeah,
those who don't know what Sikh, I mean, Sikh is the religion. Punjabi is
yeah.
Punjab would have been
From
where they came
Punjab,
from.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, you were abandoned on a doorstep. I think we're going to start there. But now you do have an incredible family, maybe the family you once dreamed of having when you were a child. I don't know. But every time I look at your content, or if I speak to you, I'm always full of warmth because I see you as a loving mother, which we spoke earlier is hard to navigate when you've never had that. But I
Yeah.
like to go right back to the beginning. You were left on a doorstep as a child. What was the first thing that you remember, and how old were you?
So basically I was given away at birth because my mum married out of wedlock. Not married, sorry. She was gonna get married, and she was pregnant with me while before wedlock, and when she got pregnant, obviously that was shameful, and it was obviously not right in our family to see a woman pregnant before marriage. So she ended up giving me away at birth. My stepdad said that he didn't want me because he didn't know what I was, so my gender. So he thought if I was a girl, it's going to be more pressure on him and his family to look after me and obviously marry me off later on down the line. So they decided they was going to abort me and have an abortion. So at the time, my grandfather turned around and he said he'll look after me and he'll raise me. So he raised me. But I started asking questions when I was around 5 years old, and I was just saying, "Where's mummy? Where's daddy?" Because everybody would just say, "Oh, he's your nonna G," which is granddad, and I was like, "Okay, then. So why is he looking after me?" So I would ask questions, and it was around 5 years old I realised that I was given away at birth, and I didn't have a mummy and I didn't have a daddy.
So where did she dump you? Where did she, leave
So I
you?
was left in the hospital. So she gave birth to me, and from the hospital, my grandfather took me home.
Okay, so I just want people to imagine, they read all about children that are abandoned at hospitals. I mean, you were lucky in the sense that your mum's father, Nana, your maternal grandfather wanted to look after you, but a lot of people don't have that. And I want people just to take their minds there to that child because this is one of those children that I'm speaking to right now. Um, you said when we've spoken before, you said that you knew your life wasn't the same as a lot of the other children that were raised around you. Could you just go back to that time and
Yeah.
tell me
So
your
our family
age?
was quite dysfunctional in the sense of my granddad was not just married to my nan. So like as time went on, I knew that there was more children, and obviously them children were like my aunties and uncles, and my granddad got married 3 times in the time obviously I was born, from when I was born,
Yeah.
and I knew I was a I knew, like I said, I didn't know at first I was given away until I was about 5 years old. When I started going to school, I was bullied, and people would say, "Oh, why is this old man picking you up?" Or "Why is so and so picking, like your nan picking you up for? Is that your mum and dad?" So I would obviously say that's my dad, because I did call him dad because he was my dad in that sense. But then obviously as time gone on, like when I was about 5, I started reception, and that's when I realized that he wasn't my dad. And I started asking questions at home and saying, why was I given away? Where's my mummy? Why ain't my mummy come to see me? Because I would never see my mum. My mum was never around to see, in that sense. When I look at pictures, I've only seen pictures, like one picture here and there of me being with my mum, and a lot of the times in the pictures I'm crying. So obviously there was no relationship in that sense, that I knew who she was.
Mm. Do you think the culture had a lot to do with this? You know, her giving you away? Do you think it was because you were a girl as well?
Yes, definitely, because when I've obviously asked my grandfather as time has gone on, he has said it was because I would have been a burden on them. And even till today, my stepdad's in-laws don't know that she's got another daughter. So I'm still a secret.
That must make you feel quite invisible.
Yeah. So like I remember times when my mossy, like my auntie, so my mum's sister used to say had when we used to go and visit, like in between, like when I've gone and visited my mum, like if there's an event, like a party or something, I've had to say I'm my auntie's daughter, not my mum's daughter. So I've had to act like I'm not her daughter, basically, when I am.
You know, a lot of people say my story's from a dysfunctional family and I'm a one-off, and I just want people to see that this is quite a common thread.
Yeah.
And I won't even call it dysfunctional. I would just call it that this is normality for a lot of Punjabi families. It's just not spoken about, and
Yeah.
you're exceptionally brave for speaking about it today.
Thank
But
you.
what I wanted to say was that you're incredibly brave to go to these parties, because I've always felt that I don't belong, but I always used to crave that I wanted to go so that I could see people, so I could have that satisfaction of seeing my cousins and my uncles and my aunties, because you do want to be part of something, don't you? Or do you feel that you don't want to be part of that anymore?
So, I never wanted to be a part of it. I was just forced because, like I said, at the time, like when I go on to tell the next bit, which is basically when I was left at 6 on a doorstep at the time, just before that happened, my grandfather had a mental breakdown and he tried to burn us in the house,
Oh God.
in a house fire. So, when that happened, I was basically obviously taken and removed from him. And when that removal happened, I was just ended up like sleeping on sofas and on floors, and passed around to different nans. Like I said, there was multiple nans, and multiple aunties and uncles, and so I was just passed around house to house. And then I ended up one day at my one of my auntie's house, and with a black bag, and all I remember is knocking on her door because one of my other aunties have left me there because she didn't want me. So she's basically said, "Go on, you need to knock on her door." And I remember just looking back and nobody's there, and I'm just standing on this doorstep with a black bag and trying to explain to my other auntie now why I'm doing there. And she says basically I cannot stay. I
So we're
can
just
only
gonna
stay for one
just gonna
night.
recap.
Yeah.
So you're born and left in the hospital by your mother because she had you out of wedlock. It's a taboo. She
Yeah.
already had an arranged marriage. Was it an arranged marriage, do you think? Set
Yeah,
up?
my dad is supposed to be from the arranged marriage, but my mum was really young when she got engaged to him. She was must have been about 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
And from then she was with him for a few years down the line. And when they was about to get married, she got pregnant with me. And obviously from then, what I heard, obviously, like I said, I don't even know where my dad is. I've got pictures of him now, but it's like you look at these pictures and you're like, is he your dad?
Yeah.
Like you can't even, because I've never really spoken to him in that sense and don't really know him. So
So your mum got an arranged marriage at 13, 14, but she didn't get married, she was engaged.
yeah, she was just engaged.
And is
So
she still
like,
with the same person? Did she eventually
No,
marry him? No,
no.
that
So
broke off
yeah,
after he'd got her pregnant
yeah,
with you. I get it.
yeah.
Okay, it's
And
clear.
then because this happened all in Punjab in India,
Right.
so my mum got engaged back home at 13, 14. And when she got engaged, she was supposed to get married to my dad, but she ended up being pregnant with me. And when that happened, my mum ended up coming back here to the UK basically.
Yeah.
And when she come here, she was working in the farms at the time because a lot of picking, packing.
Yeah.
And that's when she met my stepdad. And my stepdad never had a stay here in this country. He was illegal. And
Yeah.
so he said basically you need to get rid of the baby because it's not my baby, and if it's a girl it's going to be even more
Yeah.
burden on us. So that's what I said. So I was literally I've been a secret to the in-laws, like my mum's new in-laws, which is my stepdad side.
I mean, I don't want to keep jumping forward and back, but do you
No,
think
no,
you
no.
still are a secret?
Yeah, to the in-laws, yeah.
And for people that say this happened to me because now I'm 56, how old are you?
I'm 30.
So this has happened recently. It's not an old thing. I want people to understand this is still happening in the United Kingdom. It's still happening in India. It's still happening all around the world because let's face
Yeah,
it, Indian Punjabi people live everywhere. And it's not
yeah,
a fact that if you get rid of us from this country, the problem's going to go away because somewhere is still someone's still struggling and suffering from, sorry, that's my phone. I'm just gonna leave it in there. Someone somewhere is still struggling and suffering because of this cultural belief system, which has to at some point change. It has to change.
yeah.
You get to a point where your grandfather, your nonna, your mum's dad can't look after you anymore because of mental issues, because he was having a breakdown. Tell me what happens then.
So he's basically ended up having a breakdown because at the time we my granddad sold his place here in the United Kingdom, and they started obviously fighting over money, like which a lot of the Punjabi people do,
Yes.
if people don't know. And they was arguing over money, and then during that time everybody found out that he was having an affair with another woman. And but obviously with my stepnan, that was because this was my granddad's second marriage, the stepnan who I was with.
Yeah.
Um, so he ended up trying to put the house on fire. So we were sleeping, us girls upstairs, and all we heard was screaming and shouting, um and we could just smell fire. And my nan actually escaped, my stepnan actually escaped the house.
Yeah.
And
How old were you?
I was about 6 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just, fire and me don't go anyway hand in hand. And knowing you were so young, not protected, it upsets me. Um, the infidelity in our culture also affects me because people don't talk about it, but it's almost a norm. And except, no one at any point from the community went to your granddad, your nonna, and said to him, "This is wrong. What you're doing. You shouldn't be doing this." But they're very quick at talking about the women, and I think that's a point that really needs to be made. That where are the men? Where were the men in the family? Where
Yeah.
were the men in the community? Because you said they were all very religious and they were, baptized Sikhs. Where were they? Where were they holding him accountable and saying, "Do the right
Was
thing"?
it? Because my grandfather, even though he had this image of him being, like I said, being this religious person, like it was it was like in the Gurdwara here, like the holy temples here, my granddad wouldn't go, he wouldn't visit, but he still had this image. Like when people would see him, they would know obviously he's baptized, he's saying the right words, what they're supposed to say.
Mm.
But it was like he wasn't known in the community. So it was like our family was really hidden. Like everything that would happen in our family wasn't really out there. So even the like we couldn't, like the holy temples didn't even know about us. If
But
that,
I hear what you're saying,
yeah,
but I still feel that somebody in the community
yeah,
would have seen what's happening. They
yeah,
always see. They don't miss a
yeah,
thing. They
yeah.
don't miss.
No,
They
no,
don't
I
miss.
understand that.
They don't
No,
miss a thing. And
completely.
I'm just talking out loud that where were they? When they can see that
Yeah,
this child is being treated in such a bad way, she's not being looked after, that she's being passed from pillar to post, looking for someone to just look after her, which must have been horrendous as a young kid. I can
yeah,
just almost see you with your little black bag as a little girl, and it
yeah.
breaks my heart. It
Mm.
really does.
It's really hard and difficult. Like I said, I think like now I try when I look at like I said my little ones and I think like one of my child is 6 at the moment and when I
Yeah.
look at him he's a lad and when I look at him and I'm like I could never do that. I could
No,
never ever
no, but you
like
wouldn't because you know how much it
yeah
hurts. You know it
yeah
hurts.
yeah yeah.
I'm so sorry. I have to say this right now. I'm so sorry that you didn't get the love you deserved as a child. Um,
That
I'm just
means a lot.
happier knowing that you are loved in a way now, but it doesn't take away the pain from your childhood, which I totally understand.
No,
So now you've got to the age of 6, 7, and he's trying to set the house on fire because he's had enough and he can't deal with it, and it's the emotional and mental fatigue, I guess, that he's created himself.
yeah.
So what happens next?
So then the police obviously take him and he's got an injunction on him and at the time obviously my I was living with my stepnan which he obviously domestically violated and um so because of obviously being with her and being left with her, she thinks automatically in her head that obviously I'm just for granddad, but obviously granddad's always been there, so um I just get the most violent abuse. So I remember not being taken to school, and when I was taken to school, I was either late because obviously she was dealing with her own mental health issues as well at the time, and I would get left at the school and not picked up. I'm waiting for somebody to pick me up. It's 4, 5 o'clock. The teachers are calling and nobody's picking me up. Or she'll turn up um, early on in the day and I'm looking at the classroom window watching my stepnan doing laps in the playground when obviously it's affected her. But that effect obviously got passed on to me because I would then be force fed food that I didn't want and be left um, unwashed, hair full of lice.
I'm so sorry. Did any of the other children, did you have friends at school?
No, not really, because the school I went to was predominantly white. I was actually bullied at school because like I said, I would smell and I had lice in my hair and I would hide.
Sometimes when I'm speaking to you, I just feel like I'm speaking to a younger version of myself, and it really hurts me. Um, did the teachers pay attention? Did you ever
Oh,
say anything?
no. So one of the teachers was really nice. She was actually an Indian teacher. And she was really, really nice, but she knew something was up. But before they could even do anything, they would change school. So like during my whole school years, I changed about 6 schools.
I'm sorry, I have no words. Um,
And
what
then
happened next? What happened
so
next?
then from then, because I think I started rebelling a bit and I wouldn't listen to what they would say and what they would want me to do.
How old do you think you were when you had this rebellious sort of
So I
thing?
think I was about 6 or 7. So I was about 6 or 7 where I wouldn't listen to them anymore. So because I wouldn't listen and do things that they wanted to me to and they would force me to carry shopping bags which were extremely heavy. I still
Yeah.
remember they would make me write letters when I couldn't even like I said, nobody taught me how to read and write. I learnt myself how to read and write by using old letters. So the old letters that used to get chucked in the bin, I used to take them out and read them and write.
Who were
And
you writing to?
I would have to write letters for my stepnan because she couldn't speak English at the
Okay,
age of 7, 6,
yeah,
7. So to the people like for the gas,
yeah.
for if the electric bill's too high, so I would do tasks like that, and they
And
would make.
does she have children?
Yeah, she did have children, but the younger child was left. Like my younger step auntie, she was quite young, so she was only like couple 2 3 years older than me.
Okay.
But my other auntie, she was about 6 years older than me, and she was a bully, and I can say that.
Yeah, you were
She
probably an
was.
inconvenience to them because a lot of people in our culture don't really love extended family,
No,
especially if it's from the in-laws. They're not very loving in that sense, and I'm making a
no.
very generalized statement, but it's true.
No, it's true. It is true. And that's what the problem was. And the problem was they always thought that granddad favored me more and looked after me more, but they didn't really see the stuff that
Yeah,
I was going through, basically.
yeah, and also probably not acknowledging that you were just a child that had
Yeah.
no option, that had no voice, that had no. You didn't, you weren't a troublemaker, I'm sure, and you were in a situation where you just needed nurturing and caring. Um, so how long did this go on for, this time period with your
So,
stepmom?
so with my stepmom, so when I was just, I think, nearly turning 7, that's when she gave up, and then she was like to her daughter, which is my step auntie, she
Yeah,
said, "Well, we can't cope with her, so we need to basically dump her now." So that's when I was left, and my actual auntie, which is my mom's sister's,
yeah.
doorstep with a black bag. But like I said,
What
she just
time of day was it? Do you remember what time of day it was?
it was dusky, so it was probably in the evening time.
Early evening, yeah.
Yeah. And
Do you remember how you felt? When you've got this.
yeah, it still triggers me, the back gate, because it was through her back gate. She opened the back gate, and you know that ping from the back gate.
Yeah, yeah, the
So
latch. Yeah,
yeah, the latch. So she opened the latch and she was like, "Go on, walk down." So then I walked down and I knocked. I still remember the door color. It was white. It was just a plain white door with nothing, no handles, nothing.
yeah,
And I knocked on the door, and when I looked back, I heard the latch going. And when I looked back, there was nobody there. So my auntie opened the door and she was like, "What are you doing here?" And
yeah,
she had young girls herself at the time.
yeah.
And she was like, basically, you can only stay for one night. Can't can't keep you.
I can't imagine saying to a child you can only stay for one night, like the child understands anything themselves. You were just a kid. I think you were a kid that was really forced into adulthood through the wrong ways. So you stay with your mum's sister, your aunt for one night, your mussy, and then you go where?
So from then, I was then my other Mossy, because like I said, we've got quite a big family. My other Mossy, who was unmarried at the time, she never had no children, and she was unmarried as well, and she never had no responsibilities. They basically said, the family said, "You look after her."
Right.
So which there was like, "You look after her," and she was like, "Yes, I'll look after her. She can, I'll look after her. I'll take care of her," which she did. I will never say she never looked
Yeah.
after me, because she
Okay.
did. She looked
Yeah.
after me for a long time. Like I said, from then till about 10 years old, I would say.
You're saying it's a long time, but it's not really.
No, it's not a long time. It was a
No.
couple of years. But even between them years, I would say I was still passed around, because I would stay for a few weeks. Then I would be like I said, probably at my mummy's house, which is my uncle's house. Then I would be at my other auntie's house. Then I would be back at my stepnan's. And it was happening like that for
Yeah.
a long time.
It was
Yeah.
not really much of a childhood in that sense. I suppose you could take the positives of it, that you got to spend time with different people, but really all you needed was a home.
Yeah. And even spending time with different people, there wasn't very nice people, I would say. There wasn't people that would acknowledge us as children, like even my cousins and stuff, and me. It would just be like, you stay in one room, and while we talk as
Yeah.
adults,
So
and
they kept
you know,
you very
yeah,
different to the,
yeah,
yeah, I've seen that
yeah,
so many times in
yeah.
families, and it's,
And like, I even remember an incident where my uncle's wife turned around and says, "I can't play with her daughter, that I'm a bad influence because I've not got parents."
do you think there
And
was an element of shame and honor in all of this?
yeah, definitely,
Why
definitely.
why do you think that?
Um, I think because, like I said, my mum, because obviously my mum had me out of wedlock, and I think on top of that, I think it was shameful to them, because they just didn't know where to place me in that sense. If that make
Yeah.
any, like, what could they, like, to other people, they were saying, "Oh yeah, my granddad's taken me on," but then when they're asking the story where she's come from, they
Mm.
don't really have an answer
An
for it, because they
answer.
can't really say it was their daughter who had
Yeah.
me out of wedlock. If
Yeah.
that makes any
Do
sense.
you Did you know, do you think, at that point, as a 7-year-old child, that it was all to do with izzat and shame and respect and honor?
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't think I realized that until I was, oh, probably, should I say about 16,
Yeah.
15, 16.
But what were you feeling? Do you remember what you were feeling?
Um, I just felt really angry all the time, like going into my secondary school years. I was always angry, and I just didn't know why I was so angry. And I think the anger come from being displaced and not having a place anywhere, and not feeling that love of a mother and father. And even if it was from the grandparents were not really, they wasn't loving. It was just
Mm.
like, you just have to be quiet, you
Yeah,
have to not get involved, you
yeah.
can't speak, you can't do this, you can't do that. It was never understanding, that nurturing side of parenthood.
Did you ever blame yourself?
Yeah, all the time. I've
Do you
actually
think it
tried
was
to,
your fault? Do you think it was
yeah,
your?
yes, and I think um like you said, that's how it felt like for a long time. It was my fault. But
Mm.
then when I actually looked back into it and looked at it, it was like there's a bigger picture to it. Like I said, like there was a bigger picture to the sense of, in the sense of there was intergenerational trauma. So it wasn't just what happened to me, it was obviously in
Yeah,
the,
you're carrying that forward.
yeah, yeah.
So you're now, when people don't understand what middle school is, so you start that when you're about 11 and you carry on, sometimes till 14, then you go to a high school, which is 14 plus. So you've started, you said you were really angry. How did that transparent, how did that sort of come into school? You're angry, you're going as an
So,
angry child. Did
so like,
anyone ever sit down and speak to you and say, what's going on with you and what's
no.
happening? No.
No, so like when I was why I was so angry, I'll get to the next part. So why I was so angry was, like I explained, my auntie took me on. So when I was in year six, so just going to year seven, I started my period, which was really early. At the time, people always said that it was later on, but I know it can come any time. So
Mm.
when I started my period around year six time, I didn't know what it was. I was crying. I see my Mossy at the gate outside, and I was crying. My friend at the time turned around and told my auntie what happened to me. So she was like, "Oh, no, no, it's fine," which was, it was fine at the time. And then at that time, when that happened, I was given back to my grandfather. So when that happened, I was given back to my grandfather. So I went and lived back with my grandfather. But it wasn't just living there. So I was going back and forth from my grandfather to my aunties, and then it was just happening so forth. And that summer, when I was just going into year seven, I ended up going taken back to Punjab. So for a holiday, family holiday, and obviously things happened there.
So how old were you when they took you back to India
So I was 10 years old.
and they told you it was a holiday?
Yeah.
Who did you go with?
So I went with my grandfather at the time. My auntie just got married, not married, engaged to this man
Okay.
in March that year. So we went back twice that year. So in March she got engaged, and in July we went back in the summer
Would you
holidays.
have stayed with your grandfather's side of the family? So your
Yeah,
mum's Nanaki, we call it, which is
yeah, yeah,
your mum's side of the family. So
yeah.
not
So
the dad's side. Yeah.
yeah, so my mum's dad, which is my grandfather, he took me back. So he was on holiday. And obviously, like I said, there was a bigger picture because he was having an affair with
Yeah.
another woman
Yeah.
who now he ended up marrying. So so he married this woman, and because obviously he had this marriage going on with this woman who was back home in India. He
Yeah.
wanted to go back, so he took me back with him. But at the time, my auntie's going to be husband, shall I say, husband to be,
Yeah.
got involved, and he says, "Look, you got the young girl there." He was like, "Oh, I'll take her and show her around," and obviously
So
that's
this
when
is your auntie's
husband.
fiance at the
Yeah, yeah.
time. He's fiance. And how old is he?
He he was like in his 30s then.
So you're 10, he's in his 30s.
Yeah, I would say mid 30s. Yeah. So then so So then, obviously at the time, I didn't know nothing. I just thought, yeah, he's gonna look after me because obviously I'm living with my auntie here, but in between I'm going back and forth with my granddad as well. So I'm just thinking my auntie and he's gonna be my uncle, which I'm gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah,
having, I'm gonna be
yeah.
living with them. They're gonna take me on as a,
This
as a
is the
daughter.
unmarried auntie that was quite nice to you
Yeah,
that you stayed with
yeah.
then.
So I thought she's, they're gonna take me on. She's unmarried, so I thought not unmarried, obviously gonna get married. He's gonna be my uncle. I'm gonna be their adopted daughter. Obviously, in
Yeah.
my head, I'm thinking that. So while I was there, he's took me on, but I didn't realize that his family was involved in a lot of really awful things. And one of the day. The first night I got there, I was forced to sleep with him in
What
his
do you
bed.
sleep with them? Just share a bed?
Yeah, so to sleep with him in the bed, but obviously while we was in the bed, he raped me.
It breaks my heart knowing that you were never protected. You're 10 years old, he's 30 something years old. And it's like there's no real shame. They talk about shame in our culture on us, but there's no shame in the men that, take advantage of these children. And sadly, yours is not the first story I've heard of such a barbaric attack on a child. Um, when this is happening, did you want to scream out? Were you scared? Can you remember?
Yeah, so at the time he was obviously saying to me, "This is normal." So I was never I never knew that it was wrong, if that makes any sense. Like it was like he was grooming me at the same time, saying it's fine, it's normal. So
Yeah,
to me, he was just like, I'm gonna look after you, I'm gonna get married to your auntie, we're gonna be happy families kind of thing. So it was basically groomed. So then it was like he was grooming me because he knew I never had parents to
yeah,
protect me. Obviously, granddad wasn't all fully there because he was obviously busy with his affair.
yeah. He's doing his
So
own thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
so it was like he was grooming me. So then he would groom me and like say, "Oh yeah, this is gonna be normal, this is fine." But I knew it wasn't normal because like the next day I collapsed. I got up and there was so much blood. It was like
and nobody asked any questions. His mother, his
no,
brothers.
because their mum, obviously later on, I found out that they actually killed their dad because their dad knew
People,
what,
people might sort of think that's not realistic, but I'll
yeah,
tell
and
you
then
now that there are wells in lots of different villages where people are just thrown down if they do the
yeah,
wrong thing. It's
and
the
his
thing.
own sister, his own like, because it was just like his mum, dad, him, and his sister, and his own sister knew what was happening, and she told me, she was like, what he's doing is wrong, but to me, because I was so groomed by it in that
Yeah.
sense, I was so like, no, this is not, this is,
Well, you're a
family life.
10-year-old child.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
going to, if I told you as a 10-year-old child the sky is yellow, you're going to say, yeah, the sky is yellow
yeah,
because that's what I'm telling you over and over again.
yeah.
How many times did this happen to you?
So it happened to me for over 3 years.
No. Is that because you were in India at
No,
the
so
time?
I was in India, and then when I came back, so it was like a in between period of 3 years, should I say? So not continuously 3 years. So like in between, I came back here, and when I came back from the holiday, which I was on the holiday for about 3 months. So when I came back after that 3 months, when I was here, I would I was here for about a couple of months, and then he came here. So my auntie bought him. So she got married to him in that December. So
Yeah.
this happened in July. So the December she got married, and then when she come here, um, well, when he came here the following year, it was like obviously I was living with them. So I was basically sent off to live with them because at the time my grandfather bought his new wife here.
Yeah. So it was like getting rid of you, but not understanding that you were in danger or
Yeah.
that you were being treated in this way.
Yeah.
And I guess he just wasn't questioned because your aunt must have not
No.
seen. Did you think she saw, or do you think she didn't?
No, I don't know if they was just blind to it. I think they did see. I can't say they didn't see because there was a lot of I would like in the sense of grooming, I would talk about him a lot, if that
Yeah,
makes any sense. So I'll be like,
yeah,
oh yeah, he's really nice, he's this, he's that, because he's groomed me to the point where he's saying now, I feel like I love him.
yeah.
I don't know if that makes any
I
sense.
think also from a psychological point of view, nobody had given you that attention.
Yeah,
So you mistook the violence, the sex, as love. And
yeah,
I understand that myself. You don't
yeah,
really understand the difference because you never had it. So if you don't
yeah.
have it, and also there was a constant, he was a constant for you there. He was always being nice to you because he wanted
Yeah.
something from
And he
you.
would
So
buy me stuff. So I was like, because like I said before, I never had things. So when
yeah,
they're buying me stuff, they're treating me to things, I'm just thinking that's normal and that's fine. But then he was obviously violating me, my
of
body at the
course.
same
Yeah,
time.
yeah, without you knowing.
Yeah.
What do you think your darkest moment was through childhood? Do you think it was the rape or do you think it was from before then?
Um, I would say all my childhood was dark because I started, like I said, when that was happening to me, the only way to release it was through cutting. So I've got a lot of scars on my body, and I've been rushed into hospital a few times where I've cut myself so deep, and it's had to be sewn back, which still are on my body today. And my kids ask me what they are.
I'm so sorry. Do you understand cutting? Do you understand why you got to the point where you needed to inflict that pain on yourself?
At the time I didn't understand, but obviously now I do. It was just trying to get rid of my life. I just didn't want to live anymore. And I felt like that for a long time. I didn't want to live for a long time because the pain was too much to handle. The pain was too much.
Um, Now you're living with your aunt and your uncle. Did you still feel alone? Or were you
Yes,
feeling
I still felt alone, and like I said, school wasn't the best because when I used to go to school, I just used to run away from school. Nobody understood me in school, so I just used to run off and wag, and then at, at the time I was like, wagging basically means chewing thing now.
Yeah,
So I used to just wander off, obviously meet other people that was probably in care. I had good friends that were in care that was in the same situation. So
yeah. There's a
um,
connection there because
yeah,
you were both, or your group of people would feel some similar things, and I think we automatically, our body and our energy, it almost is pulled by people with
no,
the same energy because we resonate with their energy
no.
too. Can I ask a question? When you were at school, do you think the teachers let you down? Do you think they should have picked up that you were?
Yes, definitely. Because when I was, like I said, when I was 13, I disclosed this to my auntie's sister, so my other auntie, and she obviously made a big scene of it, and she was like, "No, this shouldn't be happening. Look what he's done to her, this, that." And when that happened, and they made this scene, at the time, my granddad just removed me from the house, and he was just like, "Oh, we need to." My my I wouldn't really say my granddad wanted to take it further, but it was my nan, which is my mum's mum, and she was like, "No, you have to silence her. You can't take it forward. You have to be quiet. They need to live their life. She's married and she was pregnant at the time, and my auntie didn't believe me. So the one that took care of me didn't believe me.
Yeah, well, no, it's a case of she didn't want to believe you.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
she didn't want to believe me, and
Yeah,
then she met up with me actually in a park, and then when she met up with me in the park afterwards, because obviously my granddad took me back to, he was like, "You need to move back in because this stuff's been said, and obviously this thing's happening, I can't deal with this in my life." So then when I went back to my grandfather's, my auntie was like, "I need to meet you up in the park." So I said, "Okay then." So I went to go and meet her up in the park, and then she basically said, "Oh, yeah, this has happened, but the same thing happened to me." So I was like, what she mean? The same things happened to her.
Yeah.
So obviously then she disclosed her own things to me as well. But then she said,
And how
be
old were
quiet.
you when
I was
this is?
about 13.
So she's disclosing to a 13-year-old instead of helping a 13-year-old. See, that angers me slightly because, and I don't get angry ever, but it
Yeah,
does, it makes my blood boil because you're a child.
yeah,
And if you know how much pain was caused to you, like I know how much pain was caused to me, you don't want that for anyone else. You want
no,
to literally stop them and say to them, I've got you, and this is the way out, I'm going to help you. You can't turn a blind eye when you yourself have been through so much pain.
yeah.
So for her
And
to come and tell you about her own problems is so wrong on so many levels as an adult,
yeah,
regardless of however her mental
and
health was. And you know, the problem our culture and a lot of society across our cultures and other cultures have is they don't hold people accountable for bad
yeah.
things. You know, they try and shush
And
it up.
that's what happened. And like she was pregnant at the time, and then she lost the baby, and then they blamed it all on me, saying it was my fault. I should not said this, and I should not said that. That's not right. That shouldn't have happened. I let it happen, or so and so's let it happen. Like you said, there was no accountability to
No.
what happened to me. So and then after that, I actually, like you said, when you I go back to that question where you said, did school let me down? Yes, they did, because I we was in a I still remember I was in a health and social care lesson at school, and at the time the teacher was talking about sexual abuse and grooming, and when she was talking about that, I actually disclosed in front of the whole class what had happened to me, and they
So that
contacted.
just if we could stop there. So
Yeah,
that's the first time you've actually just said it. You've just
yeah,
literally opened
it
up and
just
said it just
yeah,
comes voluntarily. It just
yeah,
it's almost like you can't help yourself. It's not
yeah,
something you deliberately do, but I've done it myself. It's just sometimes in a very calm situation it just comes to the surface. How did that make you feel when you just when you heard it out loud? Because we keep our
yeah.
thoughts internally,
So
but when you say out loud, it sometimes sounds so much worse than you ever thought it was because it was
yeah,
really bad.
so when I said it out loud, um, I thought I would get the help that I needed. So when I said it out loud, I actually a lot of the class like gasped,
Yeah.
because I don't know if they knew what it was, but I didn't certainly know what it was, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense
of course.
at all. So when I said it, and I was like, I just said, yeah, that's happened to me. And obviously, it's my uncle because he was. And then when I said that, everybody gasped. And then after that, the teacher like ushered me out, kind of thing. Social services were called. And when social services took me from, obviously, the teacher got my statement at school, the
Yeah.
social services got me my statement, and then um after that they just sent me back home.
See, this is what social services in the United Kingdom, that's supposed to be one of the best countries in the world to live in. I'd be happy to get out myself, and that's a statement
Me
I'm
too.
making. They don't look after children. And it doesn't matter what color, what age, what you know, ethnicity, or what your background is, your demographics, or what financial situation you're in. Children are just not looked after. And I really
No.
am making that statement loud and clear for everyone who's always saying that this is one of the best places to live, to say that this country fails children day in, day out.
Yeah,
So while you're pointing fingers elsewhere, stop pointing fingers to this country and asking those that are failing the children start doing something about it, because sadly, you're not the first case that I hear of social services sending a child that's been sexually abused back to the parents,
yeah.
exactly
So
where they shouldn't be.
yeah,
Or the
so I was
carers,
sent
in
back.
your case, the carers.
Yeah, the carers. So I was sent back home, and when I was sent back home, there was like these comments made like oh yeah, look, they never believed you, look, they've sent
Yeah,
you back, kind of thing.
yeah.
And then there was a comment said, yeah, we paid off the social services, kind of thing. And I thought, paid off? They're supposed to protect me, like obviously the teachers have obviously disclosed it to social services, and obviously I knew about social services then. I was old enough to understand
Well, they
near
used to
enough.
talk about Childline, didn't they, back
Yeah,
then?
yeah. So so they've sent me back home, and obviously that just made it worse, because now they've said she's a liar anyways. Like obviously that's what they made me out to be, a liar.
Yeah.
And then that just doubled it up on top, because they says, oh well, they don't believe you either, so you are a liar. When obviously it was the truth, and it will always be the truth. And
Of
You
course. I mean, no
know,
one's doubting that here. I'm not doubting you.
no,
But
no, no, that's what I'm saying because a lot of people said that I wasn't telling the truth.
that's an easy excuse for them to just clean the board, the slate clean, that you know what you're lying, and also to put that seed of thought into your head that no one will believe you.
Yeah,
Because you're still at 13, you're still a very vulnerable young child who's been through so much trauma and torture by a
yeah,
family that has just not cared for you. Um, did you ever, at any point, you're 13 years old, did you ever point at any point with all this going on with the social services taking you back and you're trying to, because it's really hard to ask for help, isn't it? You know, you've been
yeah.
really brave and asked. Was there any point you thought, I'm not going to make it through this?
Yes. Like I said, I was at the time cutting myself really bad, and um, like one day I ended up just being at home and cutting my wrists, and when I cut my wrist so deep, the blood wouldn't stop. So my grandfather was just shouting and screaming and saying, "Look what you've done!" And he's there, and I still remember him going through the speed camera and trying to get me to the hospital. And when I'm at the hospital asking me what's happened. And obviously, I've explained to the hospital. So the hospital failed me as well because I've told them what's happened. And
Yeah, yeah,
there was
exactly. I
no
mean,
support. There was no mental health support in that sense.
well, it sounds like there was no safeguarding, and you know, doctors, if there's doctors or anybody listening in the healthcare or teachers listening, do your job. Don't
Yeah.
go and do these jobs unless you are really caring about children and people, because I know my own experience is that they just didn't care. And you're
Yeah.
telling me the same thing, and that's how many years between. And if nothing's changing, then people are still suffering and
Still
things,
hasn't changed. It still hasn't changed.
no.
It's really bad. It's
More
awful.
more needs to be done for sure.
Yeah.
And I think by telling your story, I'm really hoping that somebody out there who is a nurse or a doctor or a teacher or even assistant teacher, whatever it might be, or playground attendant might sort of think, actually, I need to do more. I need to look out for somebody so she doesn't have to suffer. And people say to me, oh, one thing about my story is that bad things kept happening and happening and happening. But that's what happens, isn't it? That's what
Yeah.
happened to you, because it starts off on a bad, you go through a bad foundation, a weak foundation, and then you find yourself just going through trauma after trauma after trauma because nobody's stepping in. Because when you were turning up at school with hair full of lice and clean and kept, somebody should have stepped in then and said, why is this child not
Not looked after.
looking like this and not being looked after? You know, and all of the things that you say, though, I have to say, my heart is telling me your mum's dad, he loved you. In his own weird way, he loved you because he was a constant, you know,
Yeah.
as bad as he was from a social circle and how he treated other people, just the
Yeah.
relationship between you and him,
Yeah.
he did care in his own way. He was
Yeah.
there, and I want
I
to,
just like I always say with him, I think it was just he went, like I said, it was intergenerational trauma because he came to this country when he was 13 years old, and he was made homeless at 15, and he joined the British Army at 16. So the trauma he's seen, he had, I am pretty sure he had PTSD from
yeah.
the stuff he's seen. And like I said, he went through a lot of his own trauma as well.
Yeah, but this isn't
So
his story. This is your story, and
yeah,
I don't want to take away from
no,
your
no,
pain.
definitely.
All I'm
No,
saying is that we're not making excuses for anybody's
no,
behavior, but we are
no.
also saying when there's something decent to say, you know, people pick on me and say she's always saying the negatives, but I am saying
No,
in this case, I think for how much he could care for you, he was trying his best.
yeah,
I just wanted to say that. So
yeah,
now you've got to the hospital, they've not really picked up that you're a person, a vulnerable person in need of care, then what happens?
yeah. So then after that, like I said, I was always not going to school anyways because school was obviously protecting me. So I would just end up on the buses, random bus I would catch just so I could waste time away. So I'm not in school.
Yeah,
And then I ended up basically meeting a man that was older than me. And
yeah.
at the time, um, obviously I thought I was in a relationship with him, but
How old were you?
I was 13.
And how old was he?
He was about 17 at the time.
He's about 17. Okay. So you start hanging out.
Yeah.
How did it make
So,
you feel when you were hanging out?
so it felt good because I thought actually what I've told, because I would tell people. So like I would tell people what has happened to me.
Yeah.
So I think that made me even more vulnerable in that sense, to for somebody to pick on
Yeah,
that.
of course, yeah.
So at the time, it just felt good. I would hang out with him. I wouldn't go to school, like I said. Like I missed all of year 10. I was literally would be with him or at his house, or we would just meet up. And then I ended up being pregnant. And from when I got pregnant and I told him basically that I was pregnant, obviously he wasn't happy because he didn't want that. He didn't want me to be pregnant.
Mm.
So I ended up so he obviously because he knew the situation at home, obviously he knew all the ins and outs, because obviously I've explained to him this has happened, that's happened. Obviously he knows that the house, I've come from a broken home
Yeah.
basically. So he would just say come and meet me, and obviously we would obviously, you know, I was sexually active at that time anyway. So I ended up getting pregnant, and when I told him I was pregnant, he gave me the um most awful beating.
I'm so sorry. You're 13 years old. You're pregnant. You're in your head, you're in a relationship with someone who's now looking after you, caring for you, spending time with you. You tell him you're pregnant and he beats you. Did he ever beat you before? Did he ever hit?
Yeah, so he would beat me up and say nasty stuff to me, and he had broken my nose, and I would regularly have trainer marks on my arms, and my hair would get pulled out to the point I would have bald patches in my head, and I would
For
have.
those people listening and thinking, well, why would she keep going back there? Because she didn't know any different. You know, it's easy to sit on the sidelines and judge. This is a child that's looking for someone to love her. And instead of trying to understand that, please don't critique, because that's what happens when people are vulnerable enough to share their stories, just like myself. Um, she was a 13-year-old looking for somebody to give her some love. And why did she stay? Because of the violence and the mistreatment, because that's what she knew. That's what she associated with love. That's what her understanding of love was at that time. If I'm saying something that's not correct, then please tell me as well what your views are. But that's the way I see it. And
Yeah,
I know
and I think,
I'm
like I
very
said,
defensive over you, and I just don't want people to
no, definitely, and
misinterpret why, why did she go back? It's easy to say that, but you were going back because you were just longing to be loved,
yeah. And I
longing to
think
belong.
because there was no, like I said, there was no stability. So like
Yeah,
there was no stability at school, there was no stability at home, there was no
yeah,
stability with friends. Like friends would come and go kind of thing. So there was not like a constant friend that would, you know, say, oh, that's my friend, I can go to theirs. Uh,
yeah.
and like I said, that like I thought, like obviously when I was with him, I just thought this is normal because, you know, I've had that at home
Yeah,
with
you've had it from your uncle, you've had it
yeah,
from
yeah,
family members. But the
yeah,
thing is, you see,
right,
Punjabi people, South Asian people think that if a girl has had sex, she's spoiled, she's no good to anybody.
yeah,
Not understanding it was your uncle that had taught you this. He had groomed
yeah,
you, he had taught you this behavior is
yeah,
normal. It was the Sikh Punjabi family that you were born into that passed you from pillar to post. Nobody looked after you, nobody loved you.
no,
And for those people who are going to leave a comment on and say, well, I'm from a Sikh family, I'm from a Punjabi family, I never ever heard of this. Well, you're very lucky and I'm very happy for
mm,
you. But some of us have suffered and there are so many others still suffering. So
right,
please respect a victim when they come forward, a survivor, to tell their story, and understand if you've come from a great family, then you can do something for others because you know how it actually feels to be loved.
mm,
Sorry, rant over.
okay,
So
and
this is a very difficult part for me to even listen to,
yeah.
but he beat the baby literally out of you.
Yeah. So he when I told him, like he would just he'd just go in this rage, and he would just beat me. Like when I say beat me, it was like bruises on my arms. Then I'm trying to hide these bruises. It was like trainer marks on my
Was
arms,
that
on my
from
legs,
stamping on you with
from
his?
stamping on me,
Yeah.
from stamping on me. My head got kicked in. So I've got like it feels like my skull's caved in even till now, where he's kicked the crap out of my head. He's broken my nose with a mobile phone, smashed me in my face with a mobile phone. He's bust my lips. I had black eyes. I had bald patches, and I would go home like this, but nobody would question why was I so beaten up and bruised.
And did that make you feel like no one cared? How did it make you feel
Yeah.
that no one even
So
said
it
to
made
you?
me feel like nobody cared, but that made me really angry. Like I was just this angry person, but I couldn't get angry at him because he was bigger than me and he was muscly and he was like, he's just, when you look at my pictures from when I was younger, I was really tiny and
Yeah,
petite.
always the case. I think I just need to give you a moment um, and to say to you how sorry I am that you went through this. You really, at some point, have to acknowledge that none of this was your fault. You know, you didn't do anything to create this series of events that have happened to you. It was life happening to you, as they say, but it was never anything you caused. You were a beautiful young child that just needed love and should have been loved, as opposed to being abandoned in the way that you were. What happens next?
So then, when obviously the baby, I got booked in. So I went for an abortion, got rid of the baby because
Yeah,
obviously he didn't want that. Then, because he was like, because he was in a lot of involvement with drugs and and in gangs and stuff like that himself. So then he would tell me to hold drugs for him, and so he would just say, "Here's the bag, take it home and hide it. Don't let nobody
it's a
see it."
form of
And
modern day slavery. You do. I don't
yeah,
know if you know that, but that is a
yeah,
form of modern day slavery when they're using you as a vulnerable person to
yeah,
conduct their activities when it comes to drugs.
yeah.
Um,
So I would take the stuff home and not look in the bag. Obviously, granddad knew that I was involved with somebody in the
yeah,
local area. And obviously he would say you can't go out. But to this point now, I don't want to be at home because nobody's listening to me at home. So I'll be like, I'd rather just go out.
yeah.
I'd rather just be on the streets. That's all I knew. So at 14, I would start holding like I said, these bags of drugs. I would not look, obviously at the time I knew there was stuff in there that I shouldn't have. I don't even know what else was in them bags. It could have been anything. So I would just take these bags, take them home, hide them, and then when I was about 15,
You know, just to stop you there very quickly, and I'm sorry to keep stopping you, but that would
no,
have
no.
did you think that made you feel needed? Because he was giving you these things that he was asking you to hold on to.
Yeah, I thought he trusts me.
Okay,
So I thought he trusts me and he loves me to the point that I'm holding his stuff for him
yeah,
in that sense. So I would take the stuff home and obviously I would get a regular beating. If he was in a rage, he would beat me, my hair would be missing, he would punch me, he would keep tabs on me. So he would like ring me from if I've left his house to my house, and then
yeah.
if I'm not answering, then when I see him next time, I'm gonna get a beating. It was just constantly, I was like, it was constantly getting abused. It was uh, and it was like I said, it was abuse and just rough sex, which it shouldn't even
There's
have been
violence.
that. It's
Yeah,
violence. It was sexual violence
it
because it was
was.
like you're beating me, but then you want to obviously have sex, but
There's no
then that
love there.
sex would be violent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was completely loveless.
yeah.
Can I ask how old you are whilst this is happening? It started
So
at
I was
13.
about 14
Okay,
when that
so it
happened.
went on to 14.
Yeah, so then when I turned about 15 years old, that's when he got locked up on a serious charge.
Okay. And
Yeah.
do you think that freed you from his sort of clasp, his control? Do you think he lost that control because suddenly he's not there to do it anymore? Did you miss
Yeah.
that?
No, so I missed it at first, but then I think as more and more I started speaking to more people, obviously because I was attracted in that to that group, like you said before, obviously I started getting attention elsewhere. So then I was obviously getting attention from other people, other guys at the time as
Yeah.
well. And then I just thought I don't want to be in that anymore because that's not how it should be,
Mm.
kind of thing. And then from then I just walked away. I think I was about 16 when I was at college when I actually knew it was wrong what he was doing to me, and I didn't want to be a part of it because he would still ring me from prison and he would still send me letters from prison.
Yeah, because, as far as he's concerned, you belong to him.
Yes, and then on top of that, like I said, he would ask me for pictures and stuff
Yeah.
that obviously wasn't right. The stuff he was asking for.
How did you stay at college? How did you keep going to college if you never turned up at school, if you never studied for anything?
So college came about. So basically I was supposed to join the army. So I was going to go into the British Army and I done
Do you
all the
think that was an
medical.
influence of your father, grandfather?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And I passed the medical, but they couldn't take me on yet because I was just like 15 and a half at the time. So they says you need to be 16. And then obviously at the time, grandfather was like, look, you need to go and do something because obviously my money's gonna stop because
Oh, they keep you in
yeah,
education, so he keeps getting the benefits, yeah.
keep me in education.
Do you think getting the child benefit was part of why they were keeping you on anyway?
Yes, definitely, definitely, because they would
That's
fight
so
over
sad.
that.
That's
They would fight over that. They would fight between each other saying, oh, you're not giving me enough money. You're not doing this. This is my child benefit. I've actually got letters what were written to each other about child benefit.
How did that make you feel?
Made me feel like I was nothing. I was just money to them.
A commodity.
Yeah. And then
So many twists and turns to your story that just make me so upset 'cause you're my daughter's age, and I've always said this to you. And oh, this really upsets me. But whilst she's being brought up in the best possible way because of the suffering I went through, you're enduring all of this. And that breaks my heart.
hard. It's really hard. And like I said, that's just like the some of my story. And
Oh,
like I
yeah.
said, like in between, like I said, when I was with my because in between I ended up going back to my stepnan as well. And I want to say this because this does happen as well. Like I went in between this period of this happening, shall I say, between the age of 12 and 13, I was when I went back in between, I went back to my stepnan, and at the time, she actually sold me to a holy man who obviously wanted to rape me, and
So,
that's what his intention was
so your stepnan sold you for money,
for money, yeah,
and the holy man was from where?
from a good one.
In this country, or
Yes, from this
so he's a
country.
priest. So people that understand,
Yeah,
he's a priest in a local temple, and you're
yeah,
from the Midlands. So
yeah,
somebody had this conversation. They had this conversation that like, I just
yeah. And that was happening while things were happening at home with my uncle.
so
So
instead of trying to get the holy man or the people from the temple to step in and hold your uncle responsible and have a stern word with him and say, what you've done is against everything. Um, she's offering you as a
but she
sex.
did offer me, Nina.
She did offer you as a
She did
sex.
offer me.
Did you go? Did you have to go
Yeah, so I went.
in the temple?
Not in the temple. It was in my grandfather's flat.
So she basically trafficked you for
Yeah,
sex
yeah.
at the age of.
I was about 12.
You see, I'm so
And
sorry
and
again, but people
and
say
like I said, this,
the women in our culture, the women from our South Asian culture, they're victims themselves. And
yeah.
yes, she may have been treated badly because she was a woman scorned because of your grandfather, having other relationships. But how does that affect some child? How does that equate for her to be able to take a child and offer this child for money, for sex, to a religious person in the
Yeah.
temple. There's no
And
excuse for
and
it.
and like I said, that was like, how shall I say, like it was like, to me, it was like normalized in the sense
Yeah.
of, like I says, I still remember that day clearly, and this man's upstairs. There's no, like, our flat wasn't the best anyways. We had bare floorboards in our flat, and
Mm.
this man was there in front, like I said, in front of me, and he's there, naked in front of me. I'm a naked young
Child,
girl,
child.
child, and but then it was normalized because my stepnan was downstairs doing the same thing with another man.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it was like
Do
it
you
was
think her daughters were ever subjected to this? She had two daughters.
she had three daughters.
Right. Do you think?
Um no, but I would say no, because there was the older two, no, but the younger one, um, I'm actually very close to her because she's seen a lot and she knows a lot. I do
Yeah,
talk to her still today.
yeah.
But she was only like I said, only a couple of years older than me, and um, she was just like quiet in the background
Yeah,
and
watching.
watching,
Yeah.
basically.
I mean, witnessing something so horrific is bad enough, but going through it is, the toughest thing. Oh, I think we can safely say that regardless of being born into a Punjabi South Asian family, your life was one of suffering, injustices, failures by the hands of the adults looking after you, and that you were subject to things you should never have been subjected to. No child should ever have to face those things. When did life start changing for you?
So when I was about, I would say about late 16, like going into 17.
Yeah,
At the time, obviously I was in college, ended up meeting my husband now. And then from then when obviously I never disclosed straight away to him because it became, after I disclosed obviously to the last person
yeah.
what
You,
he
your
done to me,
trust was completely
yeah, my
shattered.
trust was gone. I just
Yeah,
I just didn't know how to take it. Like I just didn't know what can I say, what shall I say?
yeah.
Is this right or is this wrong? What, like I was at first I was like on eggshells because I didn't want to get hurt. I went through enough pain
Of
and
course,
hurt.
yeah,
It was like I don't want to just disclose and say stuff. And obviously I got to know my husband now. My husband now obviously was my boyfriend then.
yeah.
And then from then, that's when I think things changed for me because I
What was
realized
different about him? What was different about him? Why did he make you think that things could be better? What was that change of personality that you hadn't faced before?
he didn't want to get into my knickers.
You know what? That's a
And
really powerful statement, even though you say it in jest,
yeah,
because a lot of girls who are dating on dating sites and stuff, and they meet somebody that looks great on paper or on text, they go to meet them, and I got a lot of these girls reaching out to me saying that, oh, I went to meet him and he ended up, almost telling me it's normal to have sex on the first time we meet, instead of allowing themselves to get to know this person better and to see if they really are a match. And I do believe in sexual energy. When you are having that relationship with somebody, you're giving so much of yourself away
yeah,
that then there's nothing hardly left for you, which is why people feel so deflated when
yeah,
things don't go wrong. So he gave you time. He wanted to know
yeah.
you.
So he wanted to know me, and also at the time, obviously he was going through his own stuff and
Yeah,
things at home
which
as
is his
well.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So his story, and so basically from, like I said, we just got started to get to know each other. Things got, things were fine, and they always have been fine in that sense. Then when I was about just going to be 18, I got made homeless again.
All right.
So I was at my grandfather's from, like I said, when I got,
Oh, because now the child benefit stopped.
yeah, yeah. So then from that time, so then I just, and then my step nan who he was with, the last one,
Yeah.
he was horrible. she the stuff that she would say, and
Yeah.
she I was domestically violated by her. The violence was extreme, to the point she would run off to the police station and saying I'm being abusive, but then the police ended up knowing that it's her causing the problems at home, and she'd just
Do you
say,
think the
well,
police did what they should have done? Do you think the police did enough in
no,
this case?
no, not at all. Nothing was questioned.
What
Like,
could they have done that would have made a difference in your life then as an 18-year-old?
um, well, they could. They probably just listen to what my story, and maybe probably help me out, to get a place, maybe, or to not to even get a place, just to get the stability, to
But
get me
why not?
out of that
But why
environment.
not? Why not get a place? Why couldn't
Yeah,
they? I mean, you're backtracking, and you said it quite because that
yeah,
came openly. That was a
yeah,
natural answer to
yeah,
the question. But yeah, the police are responsible, and then they could have put you in touch with the right authorities to get the
yeah,
counselling, to get a place of your own, to have
yeah,
a fresh start. That
yeah.
fresh start would have meant it would have meant you could
Everything.
finally have control of your own
Yeah.
life.
So then, I was obviously thrown out in the middle of the night with black bags again. I just ended up with all these black bags. I hate black bags now.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
don't
even
blame
look
you.
at
I
them.
hate them thinking about your
Yeah, I
story.
can't even look at them. I make my husband change the bin because I don't like looking at black bags.
I'd be getting green
Um,
ones.
and so I ended up like in the middle of the night in a taxi, with black bags with my auntie, which I said to you, the
Yeah,
auntie that I still speak to.
yeah,
Um, and and she had a young child at the time as well, and we ended up back at my stepnan's, which was her mum,
right.
who
Yeah,
sold me. So we ended up back at hers, and then she was like, "You can't stay here. You're not giving money." Even though I was working part time while being at
yeah.
college. She was like, "You can't stay. You need to give me money. You can't stay here for free.
All comes
You
down to money.
yeah,
Always.
always comes down to money." And then it was like, "You can't stay here for free. Give me money." And I would give her money and take her shopping and get the food and stuff.
Yeah,
And then basically I that's when I went to the local authority for a place,
yeah,
and they told me there was like, you can go to a YMCA, which is
yeah,
obviously at home. It's like a HMO now they call it, but yeah, I went. This says, yeah, we've got a YMCA down the road. You can go there. So I was like, okay, then I'll make, because at the time my husband started driving. Now my
yeah.
husband now was driving, so I says, can you move my stuff from my stepnan's to the YMCA? And he ended up coming to the YMCA to me, and he says, you're not staying here. He was like, you can't stay here because there was a mad man running around naked.
I mean,
Uh,
that
at
I
the
didn't know, but
YMCA.
I didn't know that they don't have safeguarding. I know hostels and those sort of places are not necessarily the best place for a vulnerable person because a lot of people there are fighting their own demons, but I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah. So
Do
this
you,
man was
when did you, sorry to ask, when did you realize in all of your 18 years of suffering that life didn't have to be that way?
I think when I had my first child, I would say.
So it took
Because I
still
was still,
time.
yeah, because I was still during after college I went to uni, and I, like I said, I didn't know I was suffering. I didn't know I was suffering until I got my diagnosis that trauma lives in the body. That
Yeah.
was the actual truth. I ended up getting up for uni one day, and I ended up fitting, having a seizure and collapsing on the floor. And when I had that seizure, I was rushed in an ambulance to hospital. I was paralyzed on one side of my body because of the trauma,
Oh
which I
no,
never processed.
stress, trauma has to go somewhere if it's not released.
Yeah,
And people say they don't want to talk about it. And I'm hoping you feel better today after this recording,
yeah,
this interview, this session. Because I know the last girl that I spoke to in this way, she felt freer because she'd finally said all the things she never ever said that she kept it in. You
yeah,
internalize it, it's going to affect your body. It's going
yeah,
to have to go somewhere. It's a ball of energy that's fighting against the good energy in your body. So it's like shutting you down.
yeah,
And people say, "How are you okay?" It's because I let it go,
yeah,
and that's the only way. Um, I want to also say how remarkable you are for going to university. People out there make excuses day in, day out of why they can't do things, and there you are, having had 18 years of suffering and trauma and still going to university to pursue a better version of yourself.
Thank you. It means a lot.
So when you got to university, your boyfriend turned up, sorry, at the time he was your boyfriend at the YMCA, took you where? Where did he take you?
So he took me back home to his place.
Who was at
He
home? Who
so
was
he lived with his sister and his mum.
okay?
And obviously her partner, and they had a little one at the time. So I was living there during my uni. So she was kind enough to say, which I still,
Yeah, it's remarkable.
I'm
Yeah,
still grateful for. And she was kind enough to say, just contribute to shopping, food
yeah,
shopping, which I
yeah.
was happy to do because I was working as well,
You were
part
doing it
time.
anyway to people for
Yeah,
people that didn't,
yeah.
didn't care.
So I ended up staying there, and then while I was in my last year at uni, I ended up being pregnant with my son.
Okay, was that
Um,
planned?
no, it wasn't planned.
Sometimes best things come along when they're not
Yeah,
planned.
yeah. So it wasn't planned. So I got pregnant with my first child, and like I said, in between that, I had that diagnosis of functional neurological disorder.
Yeah.
I was suffering with the seizures, and the seizures were awful, like 20 seizures a day. I would have the paralysis, which I couldn't walk. Um, and I knew he was the man for me because my husband today, because when I was having a seizure and I was paralyzed, he was carrying me to the toilet
Oh.
and he was cleaning my bottom, my poo, my wee, and not a lot of people do that.
No,
So
that's what love was, the care,
yeah,
the love.
yeah,
I'm really happy that you did find him, and I'm also happy that he was almost proving it in his own loving way.
yeah,
But you see, I think your body reacted because suddenly that had stopped. All of
yeah,
that trauma had stopped, and it was like, I don't recognize this atmosphere. This is a good atmosphere. The
yeah,
energy here is good. So it's kind of like when it rains is because the hot and the cold winds come together, all
yeah.
the clouds, whatever, and it makes the rain, something like that. I'm not a geologist, so I don't know. Um,
Don't ask me, I'm not good at it either.
so don't beat me up on the comments. But I think what had happened is your body was so used to the trauma, your life was so traumatic, that was your normality, as you've said time and time again today.
Yeah,
So suddenly then you've got a really calming, loving atmosphere, a real home,
yeah,
and your body doesn't know what to do with it. It's almost like you're rejecting it. So it's like a purge.
yeah.
How did you learn to trust his mum? How did you learn to trust him? How did you learn to trust his sister and her boyfriend who was living there, that nothing was going
So
to happen to you?
I think because before that, obviously I met them for about a year on in and we got
Yeah.
to know each other. So it was like there was conversations, we would talk, there was dinner time, there was breakfast, with family, there was dinner. Like I said, we would sit and have dinner together, we would have a chat, we would
Things
go
you never had.
out. No, and it was like everything, like even like the first time I met my mother-in-law, I still remember she gave me a basket full of toiletries, and it was
Oh,
so nice.
yeah.
Not saying obviously I was smelly, just
No,
that,
but it's like
like she gave me
it's
toiletries, she gave me
yeah,
like I said, a perfume, and it was like I never had gifts. So to me,
yeah,
it was like taking that was a big thing. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, they're giving me, not that I wanted the gifts in that sense. It
It's
was
an
just,
extension of love. It's an extension
yeah.
of
And
your
it was
loving her.
like, and then the way she spoke to me and I call my mother-in-law mom. I still
I don't
do.
blame you. I think she's
Yeah.
amazing, and I want you to pass that on to her. But what can I ask? What ethnicity your current husband is? Well, your husband
So
now.
my husband's mixed race, so his mum's Jamaican and his dad was Scottish white.
Okay, but these people opened their doors to you and were caring.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think love exists in every culture, in every family. It's just there's bad and good in everyone. And I really don't think we should paint a whole community badly because of their colour of the skin.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying that because of my own children, but South Asians have a real way of, this is not
Yeah.
allowed, that's not allowed, this
Yeah,
person is
we
bad.
had that. I had that. When when obviously I was made homeless, comments were said and like things were said to me like, oh, he ain't gonna look after you. Because obviously they knew
Yeah,
about my husband
yeah,
then my boyfriend, obviously then they knew.
yeah.
And it was just like he's not gonna look after you, he's gonna just abuse you, you're just there to get used, and stuff was said. And like even when I've had my kids, they won't associate with my kids because they call my kids black. And I'm like, yeah, at the end of the day, you're saying certain things about my kids. There's no need, but my family would still do that. My family still say that, and they favoritize their
That's
other
fine.
children and
I
stuff.
mean, do you
But that's
think your
fine. I
family have
don't need them. I don't need them, Nina.
you don't? Do you think
Oh.
you've managed to forgive them for what they've done?
Um, yes, I've forgiven them, but I will never forget.
No, I understand that myself, that you cannot forget, but forgiveness is a huge thing, and it's really about you. It's never
Yeah,
about them. People
yeah,
mistake it and think, "Oh, I can't ever forgive my dad for doing the things he's done to me." But I forgave because I didn't want to hold on to that. It's like a
yeah,
quote from Buddha, the person holding on to that is dying slowly of poison, something along those times. But we suffer by not forgiving, and
yeah.
also to forgive and understand that not everybody gives us what we need because they're unable to. They're not able to give us. Your mum was never able to love you, maybe for her own trauma, for whatever reasons that might be, but she was never able to give you the love that you needed. I'm not saying it's right what she does, I'm not condoning her actions, but I
Mm,
am saying that we have to let things go, we have to let people be, and we don't have to even have anything to do with them. Like you said, you don't really have anything to do with your family. I love my family from afar. I'll say a prayer for them every now and then. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. I'm not that kind of person because I am love in my sense. If
mm,
I had to describe myself in one word, it would be that. But I'm happy that you managed to do that because it's detrimental to your mental health and
yeah.
physical well-being. Um, do you think you've healed in the sense of, do you think you've really got over everything that's ever happened to you? You're 30 years old now. You
Mm,
went through 18 years of, well, a little bit more than 18, I'd say probably 20, 22 years of torture, suffering, trauma, pain, abandonment, child neglect, modern day slavery, sexual abuse. Do you think part of you or all of you has managed to heal from that?
So, I would say I've healed, but I still have bad days. Like you can never forget that. There can be triggers, like I said, certain things, like I said, the black bags,
Yeah.
the gate pinging,
Mm,
the noise sometimes, like even when sometimes the kids are probably a little bit loud and and you're just in your head thinking. I would say yes, I have healed in my own way, and um but I think I still have them days. I still have bad days. I can never say I'm fully healed.
no,
I cannot sit here and say I'm fully healed. I
no.
don't think I am. I don't think I am. Not
I
yet.
don't
I'm
think
not there yet.
anybody, not everybody is, I don't think. And I want you to take away that even the strongest of us, even the ones that worked so hard on ourselves. I mean, I have PTSD, which is going to be a thing, and I'm sure you've got it.
Yeah.
I've got PTSD. Um, and that's part of who we are. That makes us who we are. But I think that also is a bonus. It's like a extra thing that I've got because with that I'm more compassionate, I'm more loving, I'm more caring.
Yeah.
How do you think you became, you look at your children and how you mother them because of your past? Do you think there's an influence from your past that's made you a certain type of mother?
Yes, yes, of course. Like I said, I teach my children. Not teach my children in that sense, but how shall I say, I be there for them. So like, when they are emotional or if they have questions, they, I will ask them what's bothering them, their
Yeah.
feelings, emotional regulation. I teach them tapping techniques, especially the boys, because they're always angry.
Mm,
So yes, mom, the way I mother, I don't think I've never had that. So, like I said, some days it's hard because I don't have a manual, uh,
no.
to do it. Like no mother does. But,
Mm.
um,
Well, a lot of people have someone they can
in the
go
sense
to.
of being there for them
Yeah.
and letting them like letting them have a childhood, shall I say? So, like as well, Nina, that's why we've got the land, and obviously we try and do stuff with the kids. We try and they be outdoors. They
Mm,
are not in the state system education. I would never put them there because of the failures. What happened to me, and that was the reason why I
mm,
have home educated my children, and I can proudly say that it was because of the failures of the system, because I wasn't listened to. I wasn't pushed, you know, when people were saying at home I would be labeled I'm clever, but actually in school I was put in the lowest set because I was a troublemaker.
Yeah.
So it was like there was no questioning of my ability. Basically, I didn't know where I fit. So at least with the home education, I feel like it's we don't, like I said, I don't follow a curriculum with the children. It's more free flow activities and free flow play. So I let them do what they want to do, but obviously equally important the English and maths. Yeah, we do a bit of reading, we do a bit of maths, but nothing's forced. And I would never force them because I felt like obviously, like I said, I had pressure. When I wanted to join the army, that was pressure from my grandfather. You need to do something, you need to
Yeah.
do this, you need to do that. And it was
Yeah.
like, I don't want that for the boys.
Well, a lot of people put success on a degree or they put success on qualifications, and
Yeah.
that's not always needed in today's society, especially. It sounds like you created a type of childhood that you never had for your own children, which takes a lot of doing, and I'm super proud of you for doing that. But do you
Mhm.
ever look at your children and think of your younger self?
Yes. So when I look at my children, I just sometimes I sit there and I cry because I think when they talk to me, and even my children ask me questions, so they'll ask me where's your mummy and where's your daddy, and
Yeah.
you know, and obviously sadly my grandfather passed away in 2022, and it was like um it was like obviously I would still see him even
Yeah.
though whatever happened, I would still see my grandfather, so he was still present in that sense, like even from afar he was still present, um even from afar, like I said. So they ask me questions, and when they do, I do break down and I do cry sometimes because I have to explain to my children um, why I don't have a mummy and why I don't have a daddy, and that still is relevant till today. Because even when I've been out, and even when I was pregnant with the children, and the people in the hospital asking me these questions, have you had this vaccine or have you had this? I
No, you
don't
wouldn't.
know.
No, you
I
wouldn't.
don't know. I don't know where I've come from. I don't even know what's going on. So I just used to have to say no because I was given away as a baby.
What do you think your younger self would be saying, looking at you now and the way you live and the home you've created?
Um, at my present time, you mean, like
Yeah.
how I look at
Now
myself?
where you are now.
Um, my younger self would be really proud, I would say. Really, really
Do you think she
proud.
would have ever imagined you to be living the way you
No, I never thought my life would be the way it is today. And to be honest, like I said, it takes a lot of resilience to get where I have got today. And it takes a lot of hard work as well, I
Yeah,
would say.
it
It's not
does.
just, yeah, it doesn't just come
Yeah.
easy.
I'm always
And I
saying this, that people see the end result, they never see the
yeah.
journey. But with that, having said that, sorry to interrupt, but having said that, what if I get a lot of young people watching my content?
Mhm.
You know, my mind's blown sometimes. I get messages from 8-year-olds. Um, what would you say to that 8-year-old? What would you say to that child that's going through something similar to what you went through? Because everyone's individual journeys are different. But what would you say to that kid or a younger person listening or a younger woman listening right now that you wish somebody had said to you?
So I would I wish somebody said to me that they they will you are safe and you will be safe and you would have the safety and stability in life. Which I never had. I never had stability. I never had safety. So for my younger self, I would have said I would say to myself if I was that 8 year old, that safety will come. But sometimes you have to make it, through that dark period to get light. You have to.
Yeah.
If you let go at that, I know people do, and it's so sad and it's so hard. um and you know, you want to, like I said, I wanted to not be here, not be
Yeah.
living. Like I've had like thoughts like, you know, I should just put a rope around my neck and go down the banister, like before, like obviously before, when I was going through these periods of, you know, extreme violence, shall I say. So to my younger self I would have said safety will come, safety will come. And that's what I would have said to myself. I want safety, I want love, I want nurturing. I want, and like you said, if the younger lot are watching and they're going through something extreme, and are obviously distressed, like I said, there will be light. That's all I can say. There will be light. You have to
I
keep.
want to say if anyone's out there listening and they're going through anything similar to what you've heard today or your own journey and your own suffering, ask somebody for help and ask again and ask again and ask again,
Yeah,
because sometimes you have to knock on so many doors before someone will open up
before
and say,
somebody
actually,
opens.
and there are good people out there. You've just got to keep asking. It's sad that we have to even say that you've got to keep trying to get the help,
No, that is right, Nina.
but it
Like
will
you said,
save you.
nobody really listened to me fully until I got to university, and it
Yeah.
was like one of the staff, like the welfare officer there, and bless her soul, she actually sat down and listened to my story, and it was then, like I said, like you said, you have to knock on many doors to get where you get.
Not to give up, because eventually that
Oh,
door will open and you do
yeah,
deserve more.
yeah,
Don't be scared,
definitely.
because fear often stops us from asking for that help. Try to be optimistic. Look at my story. Look at, this survivor story, that in the end she found home. And I believe you did find home, because you were constantly looking for a home, going from one place to another with those black bags. And that's the image I've got in my head. But what does home mean to you now?
So, home is where the heart is. Can say, my home is my everything. Like I said, and obviously me and my husband, we try and, like I said, we've got the safety for the kids at home, and I hope like when they get older, and they obviously they're still young, but when they're older, they look back and they see, home was safe,
Yeah.
and home had
It's a luxury.
stability.
It's
Yeah,
a luxury.
yeah, it's a
People don't
luxury.
understand
Home
that.
had safety, and home had,
Yeah.
love. Home had nurturing. Home had hugs. Home had kisses. Home had a warm bath. Home had a warm bed, which I never had. I never had a bed until I was 16 years old. I slept on a sofa and on floors until I was 16.
I don't think people understand. Everyone I meet, I hug them and I don't let go. I hold them for ages. My daughter gets annoyed at me and tells me off for hugging people, randomly at airports and things. But I don't think people understand how much that hug makes a person feel able to just
It makes
acknowledge.
you feel content. That's what I say. Like when even like sometimes I'm having a bad day or anything like that, or sometimes you just overthink it. I overthink
Comfort.
anyways personally.
It's a
And
comfort.
one of the children will come and hug me. And
There's
it's like
there's nothing
that
like,
just changes my whole mood
well,
because
there's
I'm
nothing
like,
like your children hugging you, is there?
yeah.
That's
And it's
totally
like your
different.
mood would change. But then,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, how do I think, like how would I felt when if I was younger? Imagine if I gave that hug to an older person, if I
Yeah.
look at that now, I was
Yeah.
like, did they feel the same love? That's how
Mm,
I like in my head. I'm like,
yeah.
did they feel what I feel from my boys? Like from my boys when they hug me, I
Mm,
feel love and I feel all that, all that stress and the things that I'm overthinking about have gone
yeah.
in that split second.
I think when
So
I give people a hug, I'm comforting them.
yeah,
Anything that's ever hurt them, I'm trying to
yeah,
take it away or make them feel better. And I
yeah,
feel that people don't understand the power of a hug, but they also won't understand, if they've not been through any trauma, how important safety means, to feel
no,
safe with a
definitely.
person. I find it very difficult to meet people that I genuinely feel safe with because of what I've been through. And I imagine now that you have found that, it's such a gift that you probably really are grateful every day for having it. I'm sure you are, because you know the other side of it. I'm going to ask you some quick questions before we end our conversation.
Yeah.
Give me one word that describes your childhood.
Pain.
Did your mother ever try and come back into your life?
Yes, she did. But my mum's alcoholic.
Do you think she loses her own pain in alcohol
Yeah, definitely.
as a form of coping, numbing?
Yeah.
Did you forgive her completely?
Yes, I've forgiven her, but I haven't forgotten. And that's really hard to let somebody in that's like letting her in now. I can't do it. I can't. It's so hard to let people who've, like you said, people who've inflicted pain on me, but then people who have actually, like I said, there's no love, there was no bond. So letting her in is pointless.
I
If that,
also feel sometimes people from historic cases come forward to try and make themselves feel better. It's never really about you,
yeah,
which is a selfish act in itself. It should always be about you.
yeah.
Um, what's something you've never said out loud before?
Sorry, I'm just thinking what I've not said out loud before. I haven't told nobody about when I was sold. When I was sold to that holy man, I haven't said that out loud. And that was just one one little snippet of what happened.
Thank you for trusting me. Um, what broke you and what rebuilt you? In my story, I say, just to give you some content,
Hmm.
in my story, I say that when I was at 14 and I was gang raped by my father and his friends, that completely broke me. Um, and being a mother rebuilt me.
Yeah. So, what broke me was when these atrocious things were happening to me. Nobody believed me. Nobody listened to me, and all them bruises and the I was just broken physically, mentally, and it was like nobody asked questions. That's what broke me. Nobody actually asked how how did that happen? How is your day been? I didn't even know where I was half of the time.
And what do you think rebuilt you?
Um, I would say finding my husband rebuilt me. I can say that proudly
Yeah, you
because
found your home.
he taught yeah, and he taught me I can say that he taught me what love was.
Yeah,
Didn't know what it was.
I like him already.
Didn't know what it was.
um, do you still carry that little girl inside of you?
Yes, definitely. That would never go. That would never go. It will always be with me.
And what does happiness look like for you today? The present day you.
Um, just being, like I said, we've got that land, so just being in nature, I would say. Love being in nature and um just feeling the breeze and you know j- just being free, I would say. Like I said, I do a lot of grounding as well, take my
Yeah.
shoes off, just lie in the grass, roll around. That's happiness.
We're so similar. I can't wait to meet you. I'm going to meet you one day. What would you, it's been a long conversation. It will get cut up into more smaller parts so people can absorb it 'cause it is a heavy conversation. And every time I speak to you, I'm just so in awe of you and I respect you so much. I love you so much and I hope you know that. But
Love
what,
you too.
for somebody who doesn't know you, a stranger, what do you hope they take away from your story?
Um, so like I said, I was broken for how many years? Many, many years. But I always say this, there is light at the end of a dark period, there will be light. And even though at the time it doesn't feel like it, there would be light. Like I said, you need to have that conversation, you need to have that chat, you need to let people know because holding it in doesn't help you.
Thank you so much for sharing this with me today and the people that pop up on my page to see what I'm up to. Like I said, I wanted to use my platform for people that don't get a chance to share their story. Voices that I believe should be heard. Some will be unseen, some are happy to show their faces, but for the ones that are not happy to show their faces, it means more to me because I'm giving them the opportunity to really dig deep and not feel judged and be able to just share completely honestly what they went through. I started my page to give hope to others, to show them that, look, if I've done it, you can do it, which sounds like a cliche, but it's not because there's so much more to living. It's like this person's sharing. just standing on grass with no shoes on, and being in Mother Nature is a very healing process in itself. I think we often miss the beauty around us because we're so absorbed with our own little lives. And when you go out next, look out for somebody who needs a hand. If it's you that needs a hand, ask for that help, but don't let this life go by without you being completely free. Thank you for listening, and my love goes to my survivor that's here today and anybody else that's ever suffered. Thank you.
Thank you.